All right, y'all, welcome in to the first official Respect Coin bracket. I'm going to use this coin to decide the winner of every game in the NCAA tournament. Top team will be heads, bottom team will be tails. I'm going to go through the bracket. Bracket set, a lot of really good teams, a lot of surprises. North Carolina shouldn't be in, but we digress. Let's start with the first four. First game, Alabama State versus St. Francis. Oh, can't catch. That is not a blooper, that was really a thing. Let's try that again. Alabama State is heads, St. Francis is tails. And we have Alabama State. Okay. Next first four games, San Diego State and North Carolina. Let's see what the coin says. North Carolina. Wow, undeserving and in the bracket. Next, American is heads, Mount St. Mary's is tails. We have Mount St. Mary's. And our final first four matchup, we have Texas and Xavier. Texas advances into the tournament. So we got our first four set. Alabama State, North Carolina, Mount St. Mary's, and Texas. Thank God I didn't have to pick Xavier. Okay, first round, starting in the South Regional. At the top, if this goes tails, I'm gonna have to take Alabama State over Auburn. But here we go. And it's Alabama State. So we've started it off with a 16 beating the #1 overall seed of the tournament. You love to see it. This is March. Anything can happen. It's happened twice. I think my bracket is already busted. All right, Louisville is heads and Creighton is tails. And we get the Creighton Blue Jays to take on Alabama State. Oh my God, this is gonna be a mess. All right, the 5-12, Michigan and UC San Diego. And the Wolverines advance. The coin loves me. That's how you respect coin right there. Quarter. All right, Texas A&M and Yale. Texas A&M advances over Yale. Starting to get right after my big shocking upset of Auburn. Ole Miss and North Carolina, 6-11. The Ole Miss Runnin' Rebels knock the North Carolina Tar Heels out of the tournament that they don't deserve to be in. Iowa State and Lipscomb. Iowa State. The quarter's picking chalk now after I got the #1 seed out of the way immediately. Next, we have Marquette and New Mexico. New Mexico pulls the upset as the 10 and defeats Marquette first round. And to round out the South Regional first round, Michigan State and Brighton. Oh. The Spartans advance. The 2 wins against Bryant to advance to the second round. So, in this region, first round results, we have Alabama State beating Auburn. We have Creighton defeating Louisville. We have Michigan defeating UC San Diego. Texas A&M defeating Yale. Ole Miss over North Carolina. Iowa State over Lipscomb. New Mexico over Marquette. And Michigan State over Bryant. All right, let's move down to the West Regional where we have Florida and Norfolk State. Do we get another upset in the first round? We do. Norfolk State knocking off the Florida Gators. Oh my God. This is a joke. It was all chalk the rest of the way. Unbelievable. Okay, last year, or 2-time defending champ, UConn versus Oklahoma. And the Huskies advance. They are the 8th seed. Next, we have Memphis and Colorado State. And the Memphis Tigers advance over Colorado State. I kind of don't like that one. I feel like Memphis might be on upset alert, but we move. Next one, Maryland and Grand Canyon. Really interesting game. Grand Canyon pulling off the upset as a 13 over the 4. Love to see it. Moving down, Mizzou versus Drake, another trendy upset pick. And the Drake Bulldogs defeat the Missouri Tigers in that first round game, 6-11 matchup. All right, Texas Tech and UNCW. The Red Raiders advance. Texas Tech beats UNCW. Next, we have Kansas and Arkansas. Arkansas, John Calipari knocks off Bill Self in the first round. And to wrap up, we got the St. Johnnies and Omaha, 215. And Omaha defeats Rick Pitino in the first round. This is a mess. This is a mess. The bracket is busted. All right, so for results, we have Norfolk State knocking off Florida, who probably had the most impressive tournament to this point. UConn knocking off Oklahoma. Memphis knocking off Colorado State. Grand Canyon taking the upset over Maryland. The Drake Bulldogs upset over Mizzou. Texas Tech advancing over UNCW. Arkansas, knocking off Kansas. And Omaha beating St. John's in the first round. All right, 2 regionals, first round done. We got a long way to go. In the East region, we have Duke and Mount St. Mary's. Am I gonna eliminate all of the 1 seeds in the first round? Here we go. The Duke Blue Devils advance. That's big. I need at least 1 seed in there or else this is not gonna happen. So Duke knocks off Mount St. Mary's and we move down the bracket. Okay, Mississippi State and Baylor. Mississippi State advances. Shout out to the Bulldogs. We got the Oregon Ducks and Liberty. I'm wearing my Duck shirt, trying to channel the vibes. And the Oregon Ducks advance over Liberty. Moving down, Arizona, Akron. This was discussed quite a bit on the pregame or the postgame shows. A lot of people like Akron. And the coin does as well. Akron knocks off Arizona. Probably one of the more interesting first round matchups, BYU and VCU, contrasted styles. Let's see who we got. BYU advances to knock off VCU. Wisconsin and Montana. Just saw a lot of Wisconsin. And Montana gets the dub. Okay, so we got Montana knocking off the Badgers. St. Mary's and Vanderbilt. Should be another good one. Vandy knocks off the Gales of St. Mary's. Alabama and Robert Morris to round out the first round in the East region. And that is Alabama knocking off Robert Morris. So this region so far, probably the one I feel the best about. A little chalk in there. We got Duke knocking off Mount St. Mary's. Mississippi State handling business against Baylor. Oregon beating Liberty, Akron beating Arizona, BYU knocking off VCU, Montana knocking off the Badgers, St. Mary's over Vanderbilt, and Alabama over Robert Morris. All right, to the bottom, Midwest region. Here we go. Houston versus SIUE. We get local vibes. We do not. Houston knocks off SIUE. Thank you for playing, my homies from Edwardsville. Next one, Gonzaga versus Georgia. And the Bulldogs from the SEC knock off Gonzaga in first round action.
So it's who the Bulldogs?
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga win?
Georgia. They're both Bulldogs. Unreal. Almost messed that up. Clemson versus McNeese. The Clemson Tigers advance. Next, we have Purdue and High Point. This is tails. It is not. It is Purdue advancing over High Point. Very interesting matchup locally. Illinois taking on, who won that? Texas, right? Or do we have Xavier? Texas, okay. Illinois versus Texas. And Texas knocks off the Fighting Illini. Very interesting. Kentucky versus Troy. Troy knocking off Kentucky. Kind of fun. All right, last two, UCLA and Utah State. We got UCLA advancing, and finally, to round out the Midwest first round, Tennessee and Wofford. And Wofford making a massive upset over Tennessee, one of the best defensive teams in the country. So we have Houston knocking off SIUE, Georgia beating the Gonzaga Bulldogs, Clemson over McNeese, Purdue over High Point, Illinois over Texas. We have Troy over Kentucky, UCLA over Utah State, and Wofford pulling off a massive upset against Tennessee. So that's it. Second round action, also this weekend. We start with the biggest surprise thus far, Alabama State knocking off Auburn, taking on Creighton. And they're going to the Sweet 16. Alabama State on the SWAC. Oh my goodness, what a mess. All right, Michigan and Texas A&M. The Wolverines advance to the Sweet 16. I love it, the coin nose ball, I think. What's next? We have Ole Miss and Iowa State. And Iowa State moving on. I don't know if I like that. They're so hurt. All right, New Mexico and Michigan State. Spartans advance. That's a big one. That's a big one. So second round in the South Regional, we have Alabama State, Michigan, Clemson, or Iowa State, sorry, and Michigan State. That's the Sweet 16. Ooh, that's a trip to the Sweet 16. Pretty dope. All right. West Regional, we have Norfolk State and UConn. The defending national champs move on. They do. UConn into the Sweet 16. Memphis and Grand Canyon. Memphis Tigers advance. Go down to the bottom of this regional, Drake and Texas Tech. Drake Bulldogs into the Sweet 16, knocking off Texas Tech. And finally, Arkansas and Omaha. Oh, does Coach Cal get in? He does not. The Omaha, what's their mascot even? I couldn't even tell you. I don't know what they are, and I've been there. they like to run into trash cans when they win games. All right, East Regional. Start with Duke and Mississippi State. Could be a tough one for Duke depending on Cooper Flagg's availability. Mississippi State gets it done, knocks off the Blue Devils en route to the Sweet 16. Oregon and Akron. The Ducks advance, mostly harmless. Dana Allman pretty good in the tournament, so I don't hate that. We got BYU and Montana. BYU advances to the Sweet 16. And to wrap up the East Regional, we have Vandy and Alabama, two SEC teams. Vandy knocks off the Crimson Tide. They will not be scared of them. They've played them a bunch this year. So in Sweet 16, we have Mississippi State, we have Oregon, we have BYU, and we have Vanderbilt. And now to finish up with the Midwest region, Houston and Georgia. Houston advances over the Georgia Bulldogs. Clemson and Purdue. Clemson Tigers knock off the Boilermakers. Don't hate that one. We got Texas and Troy. Troy to the Sweet 16. Don't really see that happening, but been wrong before. Finally, UCLA and Wofford. Wofford gets it done. Look at that bottom of that bracket. That is a mess. Oh my goodness. So we have Houston advancing over Georgia, Clemson over Purdue, Troy over Texas, and UCLA losing to Wofford. Pretty fun. All right, Sweet 16 action. Alabama State and the Michigan Wolverines. Here we go. Alabama State to the Elite Eight. Unreal. Good Lord. All right, Iowa State and Michigan State. God, Michigan versus Michigan State in the Elite Eight. Michigan State advances. Good for the overall bracket. Not good for my heart, though. Can't stand it. UConn and Memphis. Fun matchup. UConn getting back into the Elite Eight. Look at that. And then Drake and Omaha. Drake Bulldogs making their run. Okay, to the other side. Mississippi State and Oregon. The Ducks continue their run. Don't hate that. BYU and Vanderbilt. BYU, the Cougars, are in. Houston and Clemson. Houston getting to the Elite Eight once again. And then finally, the matchup that everyone's been waiting for, Troy and Wofford. And Wofford continues the Terriers on to the Elite Eight. So, our most improbable Elite Eight is as follows. Alabama State, Michigan State, UConn, Drake, Oregon, BYU, Houston, and Wofford. All right, at this point, we have our Elite Eight, and if I needed something, I need Houston and I need Michigan State to get into the Final Four. That's just it. But the coin doesn't lie, so we move on. Who reaches the Final Four in the respect coin bracket? Alabama State and Michigan State. Michigan State advances to the Final Four. Oh man, you might have a shot there. This is also torture for someone who roots for Michigan. UConn and Drake. UConn gets to the Final Four for the third straight season. MSU, UConn. Okay, Oregon and BYU. The Cougars, BYU, knock off the Ducks. And it ain't all chalk, baby. Finally, Houston and Wofford. Can I get Houston in? Wofford makes it to the Final Four as a 15 seed. Oh my goodness, the Terriers. I don't even know if they're ready for all that. Their travel is gonna be nuts. So our Final Four is as follows. Michigan State, the 2 seed from the South Regional. UConn, 2-time defending champion and an 8 seed from the West Regional. BYU, a 6 seed in the East Regional. And Wofford, the surprise of the dance, as a 15, making it to San Antonio. Only 3 games left. Final Four. Matchup on the left side of the bracket. MSU versus UConn. Who advances to the national championship? The Spartans of Michigan State make it to the title game. Would be the first time a Big Ten team, if they could win it, wins since Michigan State, 2000. And on the right side, BYU and Wofford. The Terriers into the final. Wofford all the way from the 15 seed line to the national championship in San Antonio. This is going to be tough if they lose in the first round. So we have Michigan State, a 2 seed, versus Wofford, a 15 seed, which is hilarious because the 15s play the 2s in the first rounds. So we have maybe the most improbable national championship games ever. I don't know what this coin's going to tell me, but everyone who knows me knows I do not root for Michigan State. I do respect Tommy, though, and that's about all I'll say. So I would like this coin to land on tails for many reasons. The 2025 national champion is the Wofford Terriers! Let's go Wofford! In Penn! Let's go! That is unbelievable. They're gonna get beat by 100 in the first round. No, they're not! They're going all the way to San Antonio. and they are winning the national championship. There you have it. Wofford wins the Natty in Penn, in Penn, in Penn. Go Terriers. Really fun bracket. And I'm going to enter this in all my competitions. So if you can't beat this bracket, then you simply just do not know ball. That is how you respect coin.